It's a bit of a bloodbath on the crypto markets, and it's actually not only the crypto markets. In fact, it's caused by the TradFi markets, and you can see that Nvidia actually looks like it's going to open down 12.2%. That means it's going to wipe out about $500 billion from its market cap. And the Nasdaq looks like it's going to open about 4% down, 3.55% down today. And this is all happening because of this. It is an AI agent called DeepSeek. It's an agent that was created, or not an agent, it was an AI company that is created in China. And unlike the American companies, which raised billions and billions and billions of dollars and spent years and years and years in development, this one, get this, this one spent less than $10 million in development. It's been around for less than 2 years, and they have less than 200 employees. And the best part is that this works, doesn't need all the fancy computers. It actually works on gaming GPUs. So this is causing havoc on the markets. And today I'm going to show you why it's causing havoc on the markets. And then we're going to decide whether this havoc is justified and whether it's going to last here for a long time, or whether this is just a 1 or 2 day spook to the markets, and then the markets are going to carry on with the bull market. And yeah, I think you're going to want to watch the show until the very end. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. Number one, obliterate the like button. I'm going to show you why it could actually be okay. And then if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Let's get the show on the road. I must say, it was pretty scary out there, and to be honest, for me, the more scary part is I kind of knew this would happen last night, and I tweeted about it. I said, watch the US futures later. Tech stocks could get hit hard on the hype around DeepSeek, and it could actually cascade. Woke up this morning, saw Nvidia down -7%, it's now -10%, and I think we're probably going to see it open a bit lower. I'm actually waiting for the market open so we can see where Nvidia actually opens. But listen, it could be a very, very, very serious thing, and we've got to discuss this DeepSeek thing in real depth, because I know people in crypto love to say, oh man, I'm buying the dip, or this is just a short-term scare, but you got to really, really, really evaluate what the implications of this are and how they can cascade into the crypto markets and into the traditional markets. We'll also look at why crypto markets are suffering if this is something that is actually good for crypto. And you'll see what I mean when I say it's actually good for crypto. So if that makes sense to you, I don't want to waste any more time. Subscribe to the channel, obliterate the like button. Early likes equals early alpha, as Alan says, and let's get into it. So I think we need to start off by understanding what happened on the market. So I was listening to a lot of podcasts and I was reading a lot around this AI agent over the weekend. And when I did, I kind of realized that I thought the markets were actually going to come down when the markets actually realize what this thing is actually about. And I got the feeling, based on the noise in the markets, that the market was going to wake up to it just after the quiet weekend. While the futures were closed, it was bubbling up inside the markets. Now, it's very important that you understand that it was bubbling up on the weekend. And that's why you'll see that there could be elements of manipulation here. But I knew that this would actually get hit. And I don't really write threads because I've got terrible ADD, but I actually wrote a tweet thread. And I said, a lot of people on my timeline believe that this DeepSeek AI issue could be confined to traditional markets. They're wrong. Let me break it down for you, and we'll go through this tweet. When I woke up this morning, I saw the Nasdaq down 3.61%, Nvidia's down 12.49%. You can see all the other chip manufacturers also down, all the other AI manufacturers also down, crypto's down. We had a whole lot of liquidations. We had about $1 billion of liquidations in the last 24 hours. And I'm waiting for the markets to open, but I can guarantee you, as the market opens, it should be like any second now. This would probably go completely red. Let's have a look. Bang. Is it open yet? I think the market, it's just opened. Okay, so yeah, so I think this will go completely red. The only one of the Magnificent Seven that is actually positive is actually Apple. We'll talk about that in a second. So let's understand what's actually causing this panic and whether this panic is actually justified. So what is it? Well, pretty simply put, it's this AI company over here. The company is called DeepSeek. It is effectively a ChatGPT competitor. It does pretty much exactly the same things that Claude does or ChatGPT does. The only difference is that this one is completely open source. So everybody can see the code. Everybody can use it freely under the MIT license. For those of you who don't know what an MIT license is, it is a license for open source software. And it was created by a Chinese company. They claim that they did it in less than 2 years with less than $10 million worth of funding. In fact, there's been numbers around 5.5 or $6 million worth of funding, and that they've got less than 200 employees. And that's as compared to OpenAI, which was founded 10 years ago, has 4,500 employees and has raised about $6.6 billion in capital. So that's the sharp contrast there. So let's go through what this actually means and what's actually going on here. And I got this tweet from this guy called Morgan Brown. It's a very, very, very good tweet. He says, firstly, let's get some context. Right now, training top AI models is insanely expensive. Anthropic, OpenAI spend $100 million plus just on compute. They need massive data centers with thousands of $40,000 GPUs. It's like needing a whole power plant to effectively run a factory. DeepSeek just showed up and said, we just did this for $5 million. And they didn't just talk, they actually did it, and they actually launched the models. Now, when they launched the models are comparative to all the big models. They are, in some cases, better than ChatGPT. They're, in some cases, better than Claude. And they perform a whole lot better. So the question is, how did they actually achieve this? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They came at the problem from a different point of view, and they made a couple of changes to how they did it. So the first thing is he says they thought the model from the ground up. Traditional AI, they rethought everything from the ground up. Traditional AI is like writing every number with 32 decimal places. DeepSeek was like, what if we just use 8 decimal places? Well, isn't that inaccurate enough? And bang, what they realized was they needed 75% less memory to get their models going. Then there's the multi-token system. Normal AI reads like a first grader, the 𝗕𝗘𝗢𝗙. DeepSeek reads in whole phrases at once, 2 times faster, 90% as accurate. So not 100% as accurate. When you're processing billions of words, this actually matters. Then there's the really clever bit. They built an expert system instead of one massive AI to know everything, like having one person as a doctor, one person as a lawyer, the same as the AI agents, and they have special experts that only wake up when needed. So it's very much like these crypto AI swarms where the agents become specialists in certain chains and in certain functions, and you only call on them when you need it. Traditional models need 1.8 trillion parameters active all the time. DeepSeek needs 671 billion, but only 37 billion of them are active at once. It's like having a huge team, but only calling on the experts when you actually need it. So what are the results? Well, from a functional point of view, this thing actually works. And you can see there's many programs or programmers on the internet that have actually put it to test against GPT-4, against Claude, against Meta, and everything else. And actually, on a lot of these, DeepSeek actually performs way, way, way better. I'll show you just one example here, which is like a less than 1 minute, but it gives you an idea.
China's free DeepSeek R1 model beat ChatGPT O1's paid model. So we have ChatGPT O1 over here, and we have DeepSeek R1 over here. Let's use exactly the same prompt, build an SEO cost calculator website, brand colors here, make it beautiful, lots of emojis. We use the same prompt here. Now let's get them both to create the same content and see which one is best. Bear in mind, DeepSeek is completely free. O1 is on the paid model. Now you can see that DeepSeek has already beaten O1 in terms of the output. So we've got the code back quicker from DeepSeek than we have from ChatGPT O1. Now DeepSeek has already finished whilst O1 is still coding. So it's a lot slower. And there is no option to preview this code. Whereas inside DeepSeek, we can actually preview the code.
So there are many, many, many of these examples on the internet of people comparing DeepSeek with ChatGPT and with all the other models. And actually on the majority of them, DeepSeek seems a whole lot better. Also, it's absolutely, absolutely free. And you don't need big data centers to actually run it and to train it. In fact, this guy says, try DeepSeek with my old gaming PC, and it actually worked. And so you've basically got this AI model that is cheaper to train, that is completely open source and is completely free and works very, 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 very well. Just going back to it, one of the other innovations that they did was, and this is according to 値'Mat, so you know it's quite a credible source. He says, with R1, DeepSeek essentially cracked the holy grail of AIs, getting models to reason step by step without relying on massive supervised data sets. Their DeepSeek R1 experiment showed something remarkable. Using pure reinforcement learning with carefully crafted function rewards, they managed to get models to develop sophisticated reasoning capability completely autonomously. This wasn't about just solving problems. The model organically learned to generate long chains of thought, self-verify its own work, and allocate more computation to harder problems. The technical breakthrough was a novel approach to reward modeling, rather than just using a complex neural reward that could lead to reward hacking, where the model finds a bogus way to boost their rewards and don't actually lead to better ways. They developed a clever rule-based system that combines accuracy rewards with format rewards. This simpler approach turned out to be more robust and scalable than other reward models. So basically what you've got here is you've got the Chinese that have developed this AI model. They started from first principles, and they seem to have developed a superior model with less than 200 employees, with a cost of less than $10 million, in fact, around $5 million, and they're giving it away absolutely, absolutely, absolutely free. And so a lot of people are basically saying that this, while the US thought that the US was completely in the lead when it came to AI, and when the markets priced that the US were the leaders in AI, actually, for the second time that we know in history, America was blindsided. And I think the first time is the Sputnik moment. So Mark Andreessen from Andreessen Horowitz said, DeepSeek is DeepSeek R1 is AI's Sputnik moment. Now, what he means by the Sputnik moment is if you go back in history and you look at the Soviets, the race, the space race, the United States thought that they were in the lead when it came to the space race, until in 1957, by surprise, the Soviets launched the first Earth-orbiting artificial satellite called Sputnik 1, which caught the US completely unprepared, and that ignited what was effectively known as the space race. Now, here again, you had the US thinking that they were completely ahead in the race, and then bang, the Chinese launch one of their innovations, and the US realizes that actually they're not doing so well. So listen to what CNBC said.
China's latest AI breakthrough has leapfrogged the world.
I think we should take the development out of China very seriously.
A game-changing move that does not come from OpenAI, Google, or Meta.
There is a new model that has all of the valley buzzing,
but from a Chinese lab called DeepSeek.
It's opened a lot of eyes of like what is actually happening in AI in China.
What took Google and OpenAI years and hundreds of millions of dollars to build, DeepSeek says took it just 2 months and less than $6 million.
They have the best open source model, and all the American developers are building on that.
I'm 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗓 with the Tech Check
So
Take.
that is a little intro as to what's going on. And Eric Schmidt, the founder of Google, who came out very famously and said that China is 3 to 4 years behind the United States, actually came out more recently and said they're actually not behind anymore. Just listen to this.
Once thought to have. In early 2024, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, he predicted China was 2 to 3 years behind the US in AI. But now Schmidt is singing a different tune. Here he is on ABC's This Week.
Well, I used to think we were a couple of years ahead of China, but China has caught up in the last 6 months in a way that is remarkable. The fact of the matter is that a couple of the Chinese programs, one, for example, is called DeepSeek, looks like they've caught up.
It raises major questions about just how wide OpenAI's moat really is. Back when
So
OpenAI...
the whole thing is that whilst the US thought and markets were led to believe that China was very much behind the US and the United States was very far away ahead of China in AI models, we're now realizing that actually maybe China is way ahead of the United States. And actually, if you think about this from first principles, we now have a model that has a training cost that is 5% of the previous models, that doesn't need the sophisticated GPUs and computing power, and is 95% cheaper and can run on GPUs instead of a data center hardware. If I would have said to you, hey guys, morning, you won't believe what just happened. We found out that we could bring AI to people much quicker and much cheaper and without the need for sophisticated hardware. You turn around and say to me, that's the best thing that I've ever heard, because that means that more companies would get more access to AI much cheaper, right? But the issue is that, and whereas I do actually believe that this is a very big achievement, and which is very good for most companies, for most economies, and for AI in general. Right now, the market is looking at it in a very isolated way. And the market specifically is looking at it around Nvidia, because for the last couple of years, Nvidia has positioned itself as the leader in AI. Ever since ChatGPT was launched, or ever since AI came into the mix, and specifically after ChatGPT was launched, Nvidia has been like the best performing equity in the stock markets. And for them, it's extremely scary because their entire business is actually built on owning the technology and selling these very, very, very expensive GPUs. So then the question becomes, well, what's the problem? The problem is that Nvidia was the best performing equity in the last couple of years. It basically has been the performance of the market. And in fact, I got some stats that of the entire return of the S&P last year, 22% of the entire return, by the way, the S&P returned 25%, 22% of that was actually just around Nvidia. Nvidia is the widest held stock. It is the best performing stock on the market. And effectively every single investor, well, not every single investor, but a lot of investors have got exposure to Nvidia in one way or another, whether it's through ETFs, whether it's through holding the S&P 500, whether it's through holding the NASDAQ. Everybody is exposed to Nvidia. And Nvidia, plus the other 6 stocks, which are called the Magnificent Seven, have actually been the returns of the stock market. And because the returns of the stock market were so good, or because the returns of these 7 companies were so good, it gave people the permission or the license or the profits to actually take their returns and invest those returns higher up the risk curve. And that's really where crypto comes in, because whereas a lot of people, I saw this morning, a lot of people were saying, don't worry about this, bro, this is not bad for crypto. You got to remember that the reason that crypto falls very, very, very high up the risk curve. And when people make a lot of money on equities and they feel rich, they go and invest it higher up the risk curve to go and chase the rewards. If they're not making money, they go completely risk off and they take their money off crypto and off anything that is very, very high risk. And so that is probably this is exactly what the market's worried about. You can see that ever since AI launched and OpenAI was founded, that's when Nvidia actually started to perform, because Nvidia was the solution for everybody. It was the data, the chips for everyone. They have a 70 to 95% share of the AI processing market, and it really is the big player. The other big player, which is probably going to be hit, and you can see it's down 3.62%, is Microsoft. And the reason why Microsoft is getting hit is because Microsoft's big play is this partnership with OpenAI, this buyout / partnership with OpenAI. And so what you got to realize now is that the market's starting to worry that if this trade here unwinds itself, if Nvidia gave up $400 billion in one day, can you imagine what will happen if this thing is actually real? If this is actually real and you don't really need Nvidia, imagine that this whole trade has to unwind. And let's say that Nvidia just goes back to where it was, say, a year ago. Or 2 years ago. That would bring Nvidia down by 80%. 80% means wiping out $2 trillion or $2.5 trillion off the Nvidia market cap. That is a cataclysmic collapse. And one that I don't actually even want to think, about. To me, it's even worse, because this is, number one, what we know that the Chinese have got. And Vinny Lingham actually said it. So he said, if DeepSeek V3 can wipe 400 billion off Nvidia in one day, imagine what V4 will do. And what happens if they've already got V4? Because the one thing we know about the Chinese is that we know that they're deceptive. And we know that they're not going to play all their cards. And we know that this can be some kind of weaponry. Also, you want me to make it even worse? Trump's entire thesis is around crypto and AI and billions being
these
invested.
World-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure.
So remember, Trump spoke about the $500 billion invested in AI infrastructure. Well, you may not actually need it if the Chinese can actually do what they say they can actually do. And then let's take it even one step further. The reason why the US wanted to ban TikTok is because they said that TikTok was a tool that could be used by the Chinese government to spy on US citizens. And that is around people taking photos and making dancing videos and taking pictures of their cats. Imagine a situation where people are using this DeepSeek, and they are doing everything on it. And effectively, the Chinese government has some kind of backdoor, whatever else. They can pretty much see what every single citizen is actually doing. And so I think that this has a whole lot of risks. I mean, I do know that it's open source, and so that's not a real risk. But I'm trying to show you that there's real risks here. This is a tweet that I saw. It says, DeepSeek is a black swan that could trigger a stock market crash. The assumption that the US held a dominant lead in AI is now unraveling as DeepSeek's breakthroughs render billions of dollars in investments wasted, undermining market confidence. This shift poses a significant threat to Nvidia, whose dominance in AI chips and hardware may falter amidst changing technological leadership. Adding to this, China's rapidly growing STEM talent pool includes a surge of PhDs and is outpacing Silicon Valley. So this is actually all saying how we thought that America was the leader in all these technological breakthroughs. Now we're realizing that actually China is maybe leagues ahead, and maybe the entire American AI market and stock market is completely overpriced. And that, of course, is moving to crypto. And I said to you, the reason why it's moving into crypto is because people are going to move lower, back down the risk curve when this actually happens. And that's why you can kind of see that now Bitcoin's back at 101, ETH's back at 3,150. And you can see that Nvidia is actually down 10.67%. And let's just quickly look at what the markets actually look like. It's not as red as I thought it would be. So, I mean, that's pretty much an overview of what this is and what the threat is. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin. The first thing is that there are a lot of skeptics as to whether this whole thing is actually real. So, 𝗕𝗢𝗘𝗢𝗙 says we're spending $60 billion to develop AI data centers. That's almost the size of Manhattan. DeepSeek, we've trained our entire model for $6 million. Something doesn't add up here. And there are a lot of doubters. DeepSeek, I'm not buying it. I think these DeepSeek AI numbers are fake. China always lies about numbers. Rumors that they actually have 100,000 H100s, but are saying that they only have 2,000 due to sanctions. A lot of people are speculating that the reason why China is not admitting that it trained this model with all these H100s, which is the Nvidia chip for training models, it's the foremost chip for training models, is because they're not supposed to have these chips, and they actually do have the chips that they're not supposed to have. Someone else says DeepSeek is secretly running 50,000 Nvidia H100s. It can't sustain in the long term, even with state subsidies, especially when it comes to scaling. This is a founder of one of the AI companies. Listen to what he says.
The Chinese labs, they have more H100s than people think. And
these are the highest powered Nvidia chips that they were not supposed to have.
Yes. My understanding is that DeepSeek has about 50,000 H100s, which they can't talk about, obviously, because it is against the export controls that the United States has put in place. And I think it is true that...
I mean, a lot of people are doubting whether this is true. A lot of people are doubting whether China has these things. Tom Dunleavy, who was with us on the Banter, says, I cannot believe the entire market is dumb enough to believe this model was trained for under $10 million. This is a country whose sole mission is to kill free speech and eliminate American competition. You seriously think they're lying to it? And by the way, this whole skeptic narrative actually is real. I mean, we could put on our skeptic hats and our conspiracy theory hats and say, you know what, this is a warfare through market propaganda by China, and this model is not as advanced, not as sophisticated as they said, or maybe it took a lot more than they actually let out. But I don't think that's the case here. And I think it doesn't really matter whether they did or they didn't. I think the reality is, what the Chinese have done, they've set a cat loose amongst the pigeons. And why? Because they've showed us that there actually is a more efficient way of doing things than the complacent American organizations who are protected by regulation and protected by sanctions have actually done. And what you're realizing now is that even though the US thought it was in the lead because it had these sanctions against China and it limited chip sending to China, what they did was they made China more desperate. And China had to find solutions that put it ahead in the race, given the resources that they have. And I always say that the most dangerous thing that you can do is take your enemy and make your enemy desperate. And the reason is because people do amazing things whilst they actually desperate, right? Which is why at Banter I always say, give our competitors all of our IP. Why? Because the more they rely on our IP, the less they develop their own IP. And that's exactly what the US did here. The US didn't give IP to China. And as a result, the Chinese had to come up with their own IP, and they started again from first principles with less resource, and they came up with something. Now, something may be as good as they say, maybe it's not as good as they say. Bottom line is they have something. Bottom line is they've showed us that the race for the AI is not necessarily won by the United States. And I think what 𝗕𝗢𝗙𝗎 says is actually true. He says, let's give it a 1% probability that the conspiracy theories, so we can address it and move on. I don't think this is conspiracy theories. I think that most people knew that the battle of usage and inference and training was always going to come. I think a lot of people just didn't believe that the battle would come so soon, and so they thought that Nvidia would have this lead for many, many, many years. And now they're realizing that Nvidia actually won't have the lead for very much. And I think this is a very big learning. And I think there's good that actually comes out of here, because I think if you analyze this back down to core principles and you put Nvidia aside for a second, you realize that the implications here are massive for humanity. It means that we can bring more AI to more people much cheaper without data requirements and without requirements that have actually slowed people down in the past. And that's a massive, massive, massive breakthrough for technology. We're thinking about the short term. In the short term, the problem is that we've got capital drain from Nvidia. In the long term, this is probably the best thing that could ever happen to markets. More AI means more automation, cheaper, without the barriers to entry. And I think that is, for me, the biggest part of it. I also think that the cheaper, more efficient LLMs, this is what Ralph says, become, in terms of compute, will keep getting cheaper and cheaper. And actually, the real race is about energy, because if you think about it like this, if China has worse chips, but more energy, they can power more energy, they can power more of those chips with the energy that they've got. And so this is not only an AI race as much as it is an energy race. And when it comes to energy, well, China is the best at putting up nuclear power plants. They can put them up quicker than the US and much more efficiently, and they've actually become experts about it. And so my final thought here around this is to say that for me, the best thing that can happen now is that Nvidia deflates slowly without actually crashing markets. So slowly, and I think in 11% on the first day, whilst crypto actually holds pretty well. I mean, if you think about Bitcoin is not even down 3% today, and you got Nvidia down 11%. In fact, I think that Bitcoin is probably not even down as much as the NASDAQ is actually down. And so to me, the longer we can keep this bubble deflating, the better. And so far, we're doing very, very, very well. We just need to hope that there's not going to be a mass panic and a mass market correction. And this is actually a very, very good thing to actually do it. I think this is also a very, very important thing. It comes from 𝗥𝗢𝗕𝗎𝗍, and he says, when news impacts the price, market participants often fixate on whether the news is true or not. More often, the actual veracity of the headline is immaterial. It is how the market reacts to the news and for how long that turns out to be a lot more informative. And I think what he's saying here is, it's not about how the market reacts to this news, because this news is actually 5 days old. This DeepSeek is actually 5 days old. Let's see how long the market reacts to this news, and that will give us an idea of how bad this news actually is. Let's call today day one, or this weekend day one, and let's see how long this carries on for. Once that happens, we'll realize how much of how good this is for the market. As it relates to crypto, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the winners and the losers when it actually comes to crypto. So number one, if there is a risk-off narrative and this correction actually gets worse, the whole crypto market will suffer. Everyone will suffer. Bitcoin will suffer. ETH will suffer. The AI tokens will suffer. The AI agent tokens will suffer. Everything will suffer because people are just going to go risk on, risk off. And specifically because now Bitcoin and crypto are institutionally powered because of the ETFs. Well, it's either going to be risk on or risk off. Then let's talk about the actual crypto sectors that could actually gain and lose from this. The first thing is, let's talk about the AI agents, because if you look at the AI agents, they are the ones that have taken the biggest hit today, right? If you look at the biggest hits that you can take, and most of them have already moved to the top 200, you can actually see that a lot of the, other than the meme coins, you can see the big ones are AI16Z and a whole lot of others. The reason, the issue with this is that it's not logical. And the reason why it's not logical, because the AI tokens are dumping on news that the models to power them are becoming cheaper, better, and faster. And so when the market actually realizes that, hold on a second, if these models were using more expensive, more energy inefficient, more computing inefficient protocols to power them, and now there is actually a solution which is cheaper, better, faster, and requires less infrastructure, that's the best news in the world, specifically for the AI agents. And what we can see is that a lot of people have actually started to realize this. And not only that, we're also seeing that a lot of the crypto projects have already integrated DeepSeek. So Daniel Sister says, if you're selling AI coins due to DeepSeek's AI models being cheap, open source, they're actually very helpful to scale AI apps to millions of users with low entry barrier pricing. This is the best thing that could have happened to the industry. The CEO of Render, and this is another sector that could actually be hit, is the decentralized GPUs. He says, DeepSeek still requires GPUs to run it, but now it can run on many different types of GPUs, except as opposed to the traditional H100s, which is what everybody's starting to look at, which means that the distributed GPU plays are now not really confined to just selling the H100s, which is a very, very, very small subset of GPUs available. Now they can actually use, now we can have more models being trained on any kind of chip, and now these providers can actually get a market with multiple GPUs. So to me, I think this is the tweet that says DeepSeek just accelerated all timelines. We're settling into the fact that this stuff was going to cost hundreds of billions to build, and it was going to be closed sourced and monopolized. Now DeepSeek outperformed all the leading models and open sourced the tech. Now that any AI builder has access to the most powerful model, why is no one talking about how we'll see much better agents for much cheaper? This is great for open source AI, and crypto is, of course, open source AI. And so this is like the best thing that could have happened for crypto open source AI. And in fact, for AI and for humanity, open source, cheap AI for everyone versus closed source, monopolized AI by the masses, which means that a certain number of companies, aka Microsoft, aka Nvidia, benefit whilst nobody else benefits. And here, everybody else benefits, but the holders of Nvidia and Microsoft are the ones that don't benefit. Eric Fuhis, who's already building an AI project, says if you want to use DeepSeek, but don't want all your conversations going to the Chinese government, use Venice.ai. All conversations are private, stored in your local browser, and I think they've already integrated the DeepSeek into their project. There's also a lot of other crypto projects that have already integrated DeepSeek. Gregor Suri, who is the founder of Akash, he says DeepSeek is the best thing for AI and crypto by a wide margin. He's a very smart guy, to be honest. He's one of the only guys that I actually trust in the industry. I know him. We're investors. He's the real deal. He helps me debunk when other people are saying things that I can't think. This is the smartest guy, and you can see that I mean, if you look at the project that he's working on, this is the highest. I want to see. I actually got a. I think they are the If you look at Akash is currently the highest ranking deepen project by revenue in the market at the moment. So with all the hype around all the other projects, Akash is actually one of the real projects. I do think this is good for projects like Akash. I think this is good for projects like Nasana. All the real GPU marketplaces will actually benefit from this. So crypto will benefit. Crypto AI will benefit. Decentralized compute will actually benefit. Society will benefit. Nvidia won't benefit. Microsoft won't benefit. So long term, this is the best thing that could have happened. Short term, unfortunately, the risk trade has to unwind. And so my final thought here is we may be in for a little bit of short term pain, but actually when you look at the big picture, this doesn't derail the thesis. In fact, if anything, it just builds a bigger thesis for why the economy is going to grow much quicker with decentralized, free, cheap to train AI versus a scenario where it's all in Nvidia's hands and whatever else. So net, I think it's a great positive. I think we may be in for some short-term pain, but I think there's a long-term gain. Now, what did I actually do? So did I actually close any positions? I must say, last night when I tweeted about this, I closed tiny leverage position just because I knew the market was going to come down and I didn't want to be caught with leverage. But I didn't touch my long-term portfolio, and I don't intend to touch my long-term portfolio because, as I say, I see right through this, and I see that this is actually long-term very, very, very good. Short-term, maybe not as good. And so I didn't actually touch any of this. I didn't touch any of my long-term bags. So that is effectively how I see it. I hope it's clear to you guys. I see a lot of people asking me. Yeah. So I think that's to end the thoughts around AI. I do want to talk to you a little bit around. About. Hold on. I see one of our tokens. Okay, so I do want to talk to you a little bit about this giveaway. So, number one, I don't know how many of you know, but yesterday somebody created a token with my name, like a token called 𝗪𝗏𝗏. And they started sending it to me. They sent it to one of the Banter giveaway wallets. It wasn't my personal wallet. It was one of the Banter giveaway wallets. It was one of those wallets that we used to do a show. And what happened was I said if someone, I would send these tokens to one lucky listener that follows me, likes this post, and shares this post. The post is still on my Twitter. So I said I was going to do it today on my show. I'm not going to do it today on my show, and I'll explain to you why I'm not doing it today on my show. We need to get a legal opinion that we actually are allowed to give away these tokens without causing a tax event. Because in some countries, if you have something and you give it away as a gift, then you can get taxed on it. So we're waiting to get an opinion to know that we can actually give it away. And if we can give it away, then I'll just give it away to one person. If not, I'm just going to burn the tokens and pretty much forget about it. I want to remind you guys, I am not associated with any token with my name on it. I'm not launching any token with my name on it. I don't intend to. I've put that as a pinned tweet on my Twitter right now. Please do not buy these thinking that they're going to get my support. I'm not a supporter of these things. Anyway, let's see. Let's just quickly look at the markets one last time. I do see that the markets are recovering. It's looking a little bit better at the moment. I think it's, say again? Oh, okay, Fantico launched. Okay, Fantico is one of these gaming plays that we've actually been following. Josh, this is not the day to talk about gaming plays. Fantico actually is a very good gaming company that we're actually involved in, no VCs and whatever else. What was the ICO price, Josh? I know you invested, bro. Oh, it's up 1,000%. It's almost up 1,000%. So it's actually doing well today. We'll dig into it, but Josh, today's not the day, bro. Today's not the day to talk about. Today is a serious day. The market's ready. You're talking about gaming ICOs, bro. Got to be serious, bro. Anyway, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter now. We're going to do a Spaces with 𝗪𝗏𝗧𝗏. And I don't know if you saw, but he may be extradited and he may get 109 years in prison. We're now going to host a Spaces with him. So I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.